Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Elaine and I write a blog over at fairlycurated.com. And today I decided to finally get out from behind that desk and try to do my very first shopping vlog. It is a little scary. We'll see how well I do this. Not very comfortable filming in public, so we'll see how this goes. It's about 10 a.m. and I am at the San Francisco Premium Outlets in Livermore. So I feel like San Francisco Premium Outlets is a little bit of a misnomer because you are very far away from San Francisco. Lucky for me, I do live somewhat close to the outlets, but this is actually only my second or third time here. I'm not huge into outlet shopping. I used to be, but I find that sometimes when I go outlet shopping, I buy things that I don't need. So we'll see. I will try to resist temptation, but I just want to show you guys what's in the outlets right now. We are in the last week of August, right before Labor Day. So technically I'm still on my no buy. I did just film my no buy update yesterday, and so I hope I don't have to do an update on that, but we'll see. Stay tuned and we'll see what's out there. Thanks guys. And as we walk into the outlets, you can see that it's quite empty right now, and that's because I'm there on a Thursday morning. I try to go when there's not a lot of people so I could do some recording without having to blur out any faces here. But as I stroll in, I thought I would do a little scroll on the side here of all the stores that are in the San Francisco Premium Outlets. And as you can see, it's quite a mix of high and low brands and a lot of your usual suspects. I do think Jil Sander is one of the more maybe unusual outlets here. I know that Jil Sander is not that big in the US, but it's quite large in Japan. And they've just been there for a year now. You see Givenchy and Fontaine. There's quite a few stores. Like I said, a huge outlet person, so I don't know what's normal or not normal, I guess, in a regular outlet. There are outlets also in Hawaii, the Waikele outlets, and they tend to be, I feel like, more mainstream brands. They do have a Loro Piana and a Brunello Cucinelli at these outlets. They used to have a Bottega outlet, which I really appreciated. That was probably one of my favorite stores, so I'm kind of sad to see that they are no longer here for 2025. But please stay tuned. I went into as many of these stores as I could. And the first store I went into was Todd's. They were having a spend more, save more type of sale where if you spent over $400, you get 15% off. I've always appreciated Todd's leathers and their shoes. I think they create some beautiful products and they're definitely more underrated. The bag here that I'm looking at kind of reminded me of the Totem T-Lock or the Stowe London bag that I have. But I also have always wanted a pair of loafers from Todd's, and this black pair caught my eye. Looked kind of like from the row. The sale price was $275. I did try on those loafers and I was very tempted. They did need to get broken into for a bit because the back of the heel was rubbing against my Achilles. And also, since this was my very first store that I went into, I just wasn't ready to commit. But they were really cute. The next store I went into was Loro Piana, and the first thing that caught my eye was this cute little cylindrical bag. That green was beautiful. It was $18.73, which I guess, originally was over $2,000, so that's a good price. But I did try to open it, and it is impossible to open with one hand because of the cylindrical shape. And then I started looking around at their sweaters. They had quite a few options. A lot of it was, of course, less than retail, but nothing was particularly of a good price until you went to the back. The back had an extra, I want to say 20 to 30% off, but honestly, it was still in the thousands price range. And then I went into Gucci where they had a lot of these vintage looking bags, sort of like I guess a remake. But honestly, you could probably find that on the secondhand market for much better prices. The Gucci store in the San Francisco Premium Outlets are quite large. I think there's about 3 storefronts combined into one. And they do assign you a salesperson as you walk in. But I appreciated the guy at Gucci gave me some space to browse, wasn't like breathing down my neck or anything, which unfortunately is not what I could say at Prada. And only a handful were at special prices, like this one in the blue with the rhinestones. I thought was super cute. Sorry I didn't catch the price tag on that one. They had quite a few bags, ready to wear, and shoes. I was looking at this bamboo handled backpack, very vintage style, was $9.95, but I've seen similar ones go for on the secondhand market for about $400. And then by the time I left Gucci, there was a line outside. And the next store I went into was Jil Sander. And like I said, they've only been here for about a year. I've never really shopped at Jil Sander before, but this bag was in the window and it caught my eye. It was called the Bateau, and I think the outlet price was about $1,000, and everything was 20 to 30% off. This hobo also caught my eye, and a couple of their crossbodies. I think this one ended up being around $600 to $700, and then this one was a little bit more because it has these leather cutouts. But yeah, the salespeople at Jil Sander were super nice, very pleasant and very welcoming. I'm not really a Jil Sander customer usually. And at the end, this card holder caught my eye. It's has 3 different slots, and I thought that was really interesting. And then I went into the Lululemon outlet where they had a ton of stuff. If you're in the market for leggings, they had quite a few, all sorted mostly by color. I would say the pricing was pretty much the same as maybe the sales section at a Lululemon store, and not particularly cheaper. And then I went into the Coach store that has basically 3 storefronts combined into one very massive store. They had quite a few bags, ready to wear, and shoes. I did notice that some of the bags didn't have the best quality leather, and I'm just wondering if that's maybe because some of these things were made for the outlet. They also did have items that came straight from their store, and those were not discounted. They were about the same price as you would find them at a regular Coach store. This was the first time seeing the tabby bag, and I have to say they were a lot heavier than I expected, but of course that's probably because of the chains. And then I also did try out and look at these small Brooklyn hobo bags. They're super cute. They were also the same price as a regular store, so that would be $295. But I think out of everything in the store, that one was my favorite. I also did like this Snoopy tote. I thought that was super cute. It seems very Japanese in a way. But yes, they had a beautiful display in a very large store. Next, I went into Arc'teryx, which is an outdoor sporty type of store. I don't normally shop in Arc'teryx, but it's a favorite of my husband's. I did find that the prices in store were discounted. They did have a sale price, especially for some of the thicker jackets, but not on everything. I also stepped into Vuori just to check them out. I personally do not have anything from them, but they are a very popular athleisure sportswear brand, and they do have quite a few items on sale, and I think they're a pretty good price. Vuori and Lululemon are kind of the same to me. If I ever need to buy more athleisure, I probably would go to the Vuori outlets. It seems like there was quite a few good deals there for both men and women. The thing that caught my eye were these sweatpants, but honestly everything is made, of course, of polyester, and I really don't need any more new polyester based clothing. And from Vuori, I made my way to Burberry, and I hadn't gone into a Burberry store in a long time, but I decided to check them out since I hear they're on the rise again. I did have quite a few Burberry items in the early 2000s, and I still have my scarf, which is vintage by now. But I did notice that these scarves, that the tag used for them are of a much lower quality. I also checked out some of their bags and their leathers. They had a bunch of coats for sale. I think they were decently priced, but I wasn't really in the market for a Burberry coat. I did have one in the past. I had a Burberry trench. They're very well made, but I'm just not a trench person. I never wore it, but they did have a beautiful store. I was also looking at this quilted jacket, which I thought was cute, with the Nova check on its collar and sleeves. And from Burberry, I went to Ferragamo, where the first thing that caught my eye was this clutch bag. This leather was beautifully soft, and I liked the little clasp. Unfortunately, the straps were not removable, so it made for a pretty heavy bag because of those straps, and that was priced at about $1,000. The Ferragamo store was very beautiful and very colorful. I actually really appreciated the salespeople there. They were super nice, very friendly, and very welcoming. I tried on a couple bags from the men's section. The crossbody with the hug clasps was really cute, but it was also really heavy. And then the white one here is the women's version. It's a little bit smaller, but it was a lot lighter. And this one was about $783. They also had a blue version, which was cute, but unfortunately very scratched up. I thought that the magnetic clasp was a great feature, so it looked like the hug clasp, but it wasn't actually that finicky. It was a very strong magnet in the front. And then I saw some hug bags in the front, and I asked to try them on. They also had a bunch of hug bag type clutches. So this one in green also turns into a crossbody, and the white one, the big one, also does have a shoulder strap. This is a mint green hug bag. The hug bags were going for about $2,170. They were cute. Leather quality was great, but just it wasn't something I would wear. And then this little Boston bag caught my eye. And from Ferragamo, I went right next door to Longchamp, and the Longchamp store was having a 20% off all Le Pliage bags. Beautiful Le Pliage rainbow wall that's hard to resist. There were so many colors that I loved, but I already have 3 or 4 Le Pliage bags, and so I wasn't really in the market to buy another one. I really like also their leather totes. I thought some of those were a pretty good price. That was a cute little backpack that looked like leather Le Pliage. And then all of the bags that were on this tray here were 20% off. So retail is $110, and I would make them $88 for the Labor Day sale. This is the second time I've been to the store, and for the most part, they don't usually have sale pricing on their nylon bags, usually just for some of their leather ones in the back. And last but not least, I went into Prada. But the first thing that caught my eye was this yellow crossbody pouch that was all bedazzled out. I hadn't seen one in person. Since it was sitting out there, I thought I'd give it a try. And I have to say, it was pretty cute. And then they had a small section on sale. As you can see, it's mostly the straw totes and some of the triangle design totes. But everything else was not further reduced. Oh, except for these shoes. There was a small section of shoes as well. And the does also have a very small Miu Miu section, but as you can imagine, Miu Miu is so popular right now that there's not much in there. And then on the way out, I debated going into Brunello Cucinelli or Moncler, but honestly by then it's been quite a long time and I was ready to go home. Hi guys, and I'm back. It's been about 3 hours. I'm pretty exhausted, about to go get lunch. It's about 1 o'clock now. So I hope you enjoyed that vlog. I didn't buy anything. I was very tempted, but I held off. But if you like this, please let me know and I can keep doing more shopping vlogs. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!